The 1970s were a golden age for Saturday morning cartoons, filled with heroes we rooted for and villains we loved to hate. These animated antagonists weren't just obstacles for our favorite heroes. They became legends in their own right, with their cunning schemes, sinister laughs, and unforgettable one-liners. Whether they terrified us, made us laugh, or had us secretly rooting for them, these villains were the lifeblood of our favorite shows.
Dashed me down the center line, sliding into the lead. Buckley is making us up.
Today, we're counting down the top 10 most memorable 70s cartoon villains who not only defined an era, but left an indelible mark on our childhoods. From the mysterious to the mischievous, these characters ensured we kept coming back for more. And trust us, number 1 might just have you ready to relive those classic Saturday mornings all over again. Number 10. Dr. Claw, Inspector Gadget. Though Inspector Gadget officially debuted in 1983, Dr. Claw embodied the classic villain tropes we grew up with in the 70s. With his metallic hand gripping the armrest of his high-tech chair and his deep, menacing voice growling, "I'll get you next time, Gadget."
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
Claw exuded a sense of mystery that made him all the more terrifying. The fact that we never saw his face only heightened the intrigue. What was lurking behind that ominous, unseen exterior? Dr. Claw's elaborate schemes to take over the world or destroy his perpetually oblivious nemesis were as over the top as they were doomed to fail. Yet, his determination and the gleefully sinister snickers of his loyal sidekick, Mad Cat, kept us hooked. Whether he was setting traps or plotting global domination, Dr. Claw's presence was a constant reminder that evil was just a claw's reach away. He might not have succeeded, but his unforgettable voice and shrouded identity cemented him as one of the most iconic villains of all time. Number 9. The Creeper. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The 70s wouldn't be complete without a nod to Scooby-Doo, and few villains from the show sent shivers down our spines like the Creeper. While most of the series' baddies relied on masks and illusions, the Creeper stood out with his genuinely frightening design. His greenish, zombie-like skin, glowing eyes, and hunched posture gave him a menacing presence that felt more like a creature from a horror movie than a cartoon. Appearing in the iconic episode Jeepers, It's Creepers, this villain didn't just rely on spooky setups. He actively chased the Mystery Inc. gang, making him far scarier than the usual tricksters they encountered. His eerie, repetitive catchphrase, "Creeper, Creeper."
The Reaper? Like, wow, this is creepy. Who's the Creeper?
Added to the suspense, making viewers' hearts race as he got closer. Of course, he turned out to be a common criminal covering up a bank robbery, but his chilling design and relentless pursuit ensured the Creeper remained etched in our memories as one of the most haunting foes in Scooby-Doo history. Number 8. Dick Dastardly, Wacky Races. Dick Dastardly was the quintessential bad-at-being-bad villain, earning a spot in our hearts despite his endless scheming. A master of sabotage and underhanded tactics, Dastardly made it his sole mission to win the race at any cost.
Dashed me down the center line, sliding into the lead. Buckley is making us up.
Even if it meant setting up outrageous traps or driving his competitors off the road. But every one of his grand plans hilariously backfired, ensuring he never claimed victory.
Tie this rope to the bottom of the jump. We'll pull it down behind us as we...
Accompanied by his snickering dog, Muttley, Dastardly's antics were the comedic highlight of Wacky Races. With his twisted mustache, dramatic laugh, and infamous, "Oh, drat!" exclamations, Dastardly embodied the classic villain archetype with a side of slapstick charm. What made him so memorable wasn't just his over-the-top schemes, but the sheer absurdity of his failures. Somehow, despite all his cheating, he always managed to come in last place. Dick Dastardly didn't just add chaos to the races. He became a defining figure of 70s animated mischief and remains one of the most beloved cartoon villains of all time. Number 7. Cobra Commander, G.I. Joe. Cobra Commander, the infamous leader of the terrorist organization Cobra, defined the archetype of the megalomaniacal villain. While G.I. Joe reached its peak in the 80s, Cobra Commander's roots trace back to the late 70s, making him an integral figure of that era's cartoon legacy.
Cobra Commander, no!
Ruthless and power-hungry, he was perpetually scheming to conquer the world, delivering grandiose speeches and barking orders to his minions, only to be thwarted time and time again by the heroic G.I. Joe team. What set Cobra Commander apart was his unmistakable high-pitched voice, equal parts menacing and melodramatic, which made every one of his tirades unforgettable. His striking design, featuring the signature silver mask or hood, added to his aura of mystery and cemented him as one of the most iconic villains in animation. Though he often spent more time retreating than conquering, Cobra Commander's flair for theatrics and unyielding ambition ensured he remained a compelling and entertaining adversary. Number 6. Captain Hook, Peter Pan and the Pirates. No list of 70s cartoon villains would be complete without Captain Hook, the classic nemesis of Peter Pan. In the animated series, Peter Pan and the Pirates, Captain Hook became the quintessential villain. His personality was equal parts menacing and comedic. He could go from being a ruthless pirate to a bumbling fool in the blink of an eye, especially when confronted with the ticking crocodile that haunted his every move. Captain Hook's vanity and arrogance made him an easy character to root against, but his frequent blunders and the way Peter Pan always outsmarted him made him a fun villain to watch. Whether he was trying to capture Peter or concocting another plan to take over Neverland, Captain Hook's flamboyant personality and deep fear of the crocodile added a layer of charm that made him one of the most memorable animated villains of the decade. Number 5. Gargamel, the Smurfs. Who could ever forget Gargamel, the wicked wizard with a singular obsession, capturing the Smurfs? Whether his aim was to turn them into gold, brew potions, or most disturbingly, eat them, Gargamel's elaborate and often ridiculous schemes kept audiences thoroughly entertained. His relentless pursuit of the little blue creatures was as endearing as it was laughable, with his plans inevitably backfiring in the most comical ways. With his ragged rope, scraggly hair, and a voice dripping with exasperation, Gargamel struck the perfect balance between menace and hilarity. His bumbling incompetence made him a comical figure, but there was always a hint of danger lurking beneath his antics. And let's not forget Azrael, his cunning feline sidekick, who often seemed smarter and more skeptical than his master. Gargamel's persistence and over-the-top antics made him one of the most defining villains of the 70s, a character whose failures were as delightful as the Smurfs' victories. Number 4. Mumm-Ra, Thundercats. Next up is Mumm-Ra, the ancient sorcerer whose name alone could strike fear in the hearts of the Thundercats. As the ultimate embodiment of evil, Mumm-Ra wasn't your average villain. He spent much of his time in a decrepit, mummified state, but could transform into the terrifying Mumm-Ra, the ever-living. Through his spine-chilling chant, "Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mumm-Ra, the ever-living." Even now, those words send chills down our spines. Mumm-Ra was more than just a villain. He was a relentless force in nature. His mastery of dark magic, combined with his insatiable desire to control the universe, made him a formidable foe. Even when defeated, Mumm-Ra never stayed down for long, always returning stronger and more vengeful. His unyielding ambition, commanding presence, and supernatural abilities secured his place as one of the most fearsome and unforgettable villains of the era. Number 3. Shredder, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While Shredder became even more famous in the 80s, his roots in the 70s made him an early prototype for what a great villain could be. As the leader of the Foot Clan, Shredder was not only a ninja master, but also a brilliant strategist. His vendetta against Splinter and the Ninja Turtles made for some of the best storylines in the series. Shredder was a complex villain, motivated by personal hatred and a desire for control. His spiked armor, iconic helmet, and deep voice made him an instantly recognizable figure. Whether he was fighting the Turtles one-on-one or sending his foot soldiers after him, Shredder's presence was always a threat. His battles with the Turtles became legendary, and his character evolved into one of the most feared and respected villains in cartoon history. Number 2. Skeletor, He-Man in the Masters of the Universe. If there's one villain who defined the 70s and 80s, it's Skeletor.
I, Skeletor, am master of the universe.
With his skull face, blue skin, and wicked laugh, Skeletor was the ultimate evil mastermind. He was always plotting to take over Castle Grayskull and rule the universe. But despite his immense power, He-Man always managed to foil his plans. What made Skeletor so memorable wasn't just his appearance, it was his personality. He was sarcastic, quick-witted, and full of biting insults, which added a comedic twist to his evil nature. Despite his constant failures, Skeletor never gave up, always coming back with bigger and bolder plans. His mix of humor and menace made him a villain we couldn't get enough of. Number 1. The Evil Queen, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Topping our list is none other than the Evil Queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. While Snow White originally premiered in 1937, the character of the Evil Queen remained an iconic villain throughout the 70s, thanks to reruns and re-releases of the film. The Queen's obsession with being the fairest of them all and her willingness to commit murder to achieve that goal made her one of the darkest villains of all time. The scene where she transforms into the old hag with the poisoned apple is one of the most terrifying moments in animation history.
Look! My hand!
Her vanity and cruelty made her a villain who truly haunted our childhoods. The Evil Queen wasn't just after power. She was driven by envy, making her a villain whose motivations we could understand, even if we feared her. Her chilling presence has stood the test of time, earning her the top spot on our list. These characters may have been antagonists, but they were also the driving force behind some of the best animated adventures of our youth. Whether they made us laugh, scared us, or just kept us entertained, they're a big part of why we loved Saturday morning cartoons so much. Which villain was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below.